It has been the crime of the century. For Arizona, this is a huge problem, and it's not going away.
Thousands of families in Arizona are losing their homes to illegal foreclosures based on forged documents. Yet nobody's been prosecuted for using forged documents in our courts.
So tonight, ABC 15 investigator Dave Biskobing asks the Attorney General why the laws that make using forged documents in court a crime don't seem to apply to banks foreclosing on Arizona homeowners.
There's been a really major effort to clean up that situation.
But victims of illegal foreclosures and their lawyers disagree.
I contacted the AG's office to say, look, I'm a victim. Look at my documents. Look at everything that's happened to me. I haven't even heard from the AG's office.
Gabriella Westphal is a mother who's been fighting for 4 long years to keep her family in their North Phoenix home.
Can't tell them day to day whether we'll get kicked out of the house. I don't know if I'll come home to an eviction notice on the door or not. You know, there's a lot of good memories here.
She says she never missed a payment, but after asking for a modification, the bank took steps to foreclose. And for a cop and a former detective with 25 years on the force, Gabriella detected a problem and discovered
It's signed by Linda Green.
the now infamous signature of Linda Green was all over her foreclosure file. Sound familiar? At one time, Green was an employee of a document processing company called DocX. Court records show Green's signature was forged in tens of thousands of foreclosures across the country. Her name was signed as if she were an executive at dozens of different banks. She wasn't, and she wasn't alone. It became known as the robo-signing scandal.
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in the system, and I'm disappointed in the way things were handled. I think that there was a group of people that got greedy, and they found a way to make money, and they stole from American citizens.
What it really means is fraud on the court. Fraudulent documents being recorded against people's real property.
These people were really just seriously ripped off.
Dan McCauley and Beth Vincent are attorneys fighting for the victims of fraudulent foreclosures. They say fake document mills like DocX were set up to quickly fabricate and forge documents, and those bogus records were used by lenders in court to foreclose and push people out of their homes.
They would have a room where people went in and sat down and just signed documents all day long. They just made what they needed and had them signed.
Both attorneys say all of the homeowners they represent are in court fighting foreclosures based on forged documents. They're not deadbeats. They're homeowners who paid faithfully. But when they asked for a modification, they were told they had to stop paying for 3 months. When they followed that advice, the banks denied a modification and foreclosed.
The homes are being stolen.
It's really a significant and widespread problem.
DocX agreed to pay more than $100 million in a national settlement and to stop creating bogus documents.
The Attorney General was quick to join the DocX settlement and grab a share of the money for victims in Arizona. But when I sat down with Tom Horn here at his office to talk about the use of fraudulent documents in court, you might be surprised to hear he referred to it as a shortcut, and that it doesn't necessarily mean a foreclosure is wrongful.
In the process, there was maybe a document that was signed by somebody signed it in somebody else's name as a shortcut, but in the underlying transaction, there's no injustice. The person didn't make his payments.
If the homeowner is going to come in and fight their foreclosure and forge their own documents, they're going to jail. So I don't know that they're going to be so sympathetic to your argument that the underlying premise is that they still didn't pay, because many people did pay and then they still were foreclosed on with fraudulent documents.
Well, don't misunderstand me. I'm not being sympathetic with fraudulent handling of documents, but what I'm explaining to you is that the fact that there was a fraudulent document may or may not mean that the foreclosure itself is wrongful.
Does that mean Horn thinks the use of forged documents is permissible in foreclosure cases? The question caused him to pause and check with an assistant.
Let me just check, am I getting this right?
That's a real problem for me.
We asked Dan McCauley to watch our interview with Horn. McCauley says permitting forged documents in court
May or may not mean
allows fraud to flood our legal system.
It just stuns me. The issue is it a legitimate foreclosure? Is this the real owner? All the cases I've reviewed, the documents are absolutely forged and fake. And that needs to be addressed by the system.
And if it isn't addressed, the fake and forged documents are something McCauley and Vincent say could be a huge problem in the future.
public records are a disaster area. That might sound dry to some, but that's a big deal. This could have ramifications for years to come.
Unfortunately, throws everybody's chain of title into question now. We don't know who owns what.
That's exactly what Gabriella is dealing with right now. After fraudulent docs were filed in her case, bank after bank lined up in court to claim they own her house.
How many people claim to have owned it? Probably 6 to 8 different banks. I don't know who I'm supposed to pay my mortgage to because we don't know who owns the mortgage.
And as behind it, we always see families affected.
Always.
If you want to watch all those stories on illegal foreclosures, just visit abc15.com/investigators.
And if you've got a tip about illegal foreclosures with forged documents, send it to ABC 15 investigator Dave Biscabine at dbiscabine@abc15.com.